Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Nothing's going right.
You could let me go.
I'm thinking about it.
I promise I won't tell anyone. You can blindfold me, drop me off on the street, I'll walk home.
Well, tell me your name.
Taylor. Taylor Mullen.
All right, welcome back to another episode of The Pint. My name is John. With me this week again, 2 weeks in a row, is Lindsay. Lindsay's filling in, helping make things happen here. What's going on, Lynn?
Not much.
You ready to talk more Morbius? Morbius Part 2.
Yeah, well, there's so much more to say.
Yeah, a lot more to say about Morbius. So here's the deal for this week. I have had a terrible week at work. I could not find any time to get a regular episode, a longer episode edited, and I didn't want nothing to come out. So we're going to do a short review of a new film, The Black Phone, if you've heard of that. So this episode will be a little bit shorter than normal, but still get something out, and you still get to hear some of the pint. So a little bit of housekeeping before we move on. This is episode 249. Next week will be 250. Coming up after 250, the theme song is going to change. So Sex the Animal, my buddy Sean, he has supplied us with the great song Triumph, which we've used over on the old Pint of Comics radio show when I was part of that. And I started using that on the podcast probably about like 50 or so episodes ago. But because Pint of Comics, which is a separate thing from us, still uses it, I figured maybe it's time to change things up. Enter my buddy Sal from Robert Barron's Inc. He recently formed a band during the pandemic with his friends. It's called Buried Under Sky. And it's a metal band. Pretty cool metal band. They have an EP out. I believe it's either out right now or coming out very soon. Go to bandcamp.com and look Buried Under Sky, and you can find them. But they let us use one of their songs called Darkest Corners. So we are going to use that from here on out, hopefully forever and ever, as the theme song. So you got a couple episodes left with Triumph, and I want to say thanks to Sean and DJ Iculus for letting us use that for so long. All right, so The Black Phone came out on June 24th, 2022, just like a month ago, not even a month ago, in theaters, and it just came out yesterday, which would be July 15th or 14th on streaming. So we rented it last night, right, Lynn?
We did.
$20, right? Not bad. It was less than going out to a movie.
Yeah, and I think I had some Amazon credits saved up.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I thought I paid, so now it's free. Whoop, whoop. Excellent. All right. Let's talk about this a little bit. All right. So The Black Phone, directed by Scott Derrickson. He directed a horror film called Sinister, which came out a few years ago. And he directed the Marvel MCU film, Doctor Strange. He was supposed to direct the second Doctor Strange movie, but there was the, what do you call that? Like a difference of opinion or what do they always call that? Professional differences. And he left and Sam Raimi took over. So there's that. Written also, Scott Derrickson. The director co-wrote this. Now, if you want to know about some of his writing credits, Hellraiser Inferno, which I think was the one in space. Did you know he wrote that? Yeah, he wrote that. Sinister 2, the sequel to Sinister, which he did not direct, but he wrote. And he has a partner, C. Robert Cargill, who wrote Doctor Strange along with him, and a movie called No Man of God that was about Ted Bundy, released a couple years ago with Elijah Wood, which I haven't seen, but I've heard is really good. And this is based on a 2004 short story of the same name by Joe Hill. Now, Lindsay, we didn't even talk about this. Do you know who Joe Hill is?
Is that Stephen King's son?
He is.
See, I pick up on some of this stuff you tell me.
There you go. Joe Hill is Stephen King's son. He's a novelist. Horns, a book I read called Heart-Shaped Box, which I like quite a bit, and a comic series called Lock and Key, which was made into a Netflix show a couple years ago, and I think there might have been more than one season, so I've heard it's not good, though. The comic series was pretty good at what I read, but... All right, so Joe Hill. If you have a chance, Lynn, too, look up Joe Hill. He looks just like a young Stephen King. It's creepy. You know, Stephen King had kind of, you know, he fits his, I guess, what you would think Stephen King would look like. Kind of a creepy guy.
Like a young Colin Robinson?
Yeah, like a young Colin Robinson. All right. So let's get into who's starring this thing.
Shabuya roll call.
All right. First up, he's known mostly for leading man roles and, you know, kind of being earlier in his career a Hollywood hunk. It's Ethan Hawke. He plays the Grabber. That's all you get. You get no name in this. You don't need a name, though. You might know him from Training Day and The Purge. Mason Thames. Mason Thames, young guy, plays Finney, who we discussed during the movie. We could never tell if his name was Vinny or Finney.
And we did think it might be Vinny.
Yeah.
We weren't sure.
It's kind of hard to tell. And Vinny is obviously a more popular name than Finney.
Yeah, we had to see the end credits to really know for sure.
Right. He has been in a couple things TV show-wise. For All Mankind, which is a show on Apple Plus, and apparently in the new reboot of Walker, Texas Ranger, which stars Jared Padalecki from Supernatural, he plays young Walker. Madeline McGraw played Gwen, who was the sister of Finney. She has been in a couple things, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Toy Story 4. Jeremy Davies. Did you recognize Jeremy Davies, who played Terrence, their father?
I did.
What do you recognize him from?
Was it Joe Dirt?
No. He looks like a Joe Dirt character kind of in this.
He does.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I do recognize him, and I like him as an actor. I just can't place him.
He was, well, you would know him. He was in a film called Ravenous, which I love. He was in Saving Private Ryan. But you would probably know him from Lost. He was Dr. Daniel,
Okay.
He was the one that figured out he was figuring out the whole time shifting and different lives thing.
He's playing a very different role in this movie than Lost.
Very different, yeah. And he was in Justified. He was one of the... Remember there was that shitbag family?
Yes.
He was he was the young brother. I can't remember his name, but like Raylan was always beating the shit out of him.
Yeah, he deserved it.
Yeah, he was a douchebag. James Ransone plays Max. He's the brother character of the Grabber. I know him from The Wire. He was in season 2 of The Wire. He has a huge dick. There's a scene in The Wire in season 2, which is 20 years ago, so he's much younger, where he pulls his dick out and waves it around. And if that was his real dick, he has a huge dick. It Chapter 2 as well. So that's it. It was filmed in and around Wilmington, North Carolina, between February and March of 2021. $16 to $18 million budget. It actually was filmed because Derrickson left Doctor Strange 2. So he was going to do this eventually. He left Doctor Strange 2, and this got fast-tracked.
What was the budget?
16 to 18 million.
Really?
Yeah, it's a low budget, very low budget movie.
Oh, that's considered low budget?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Like, so if you take a movie like I'm not going to get the number right, but like The Avengers or something, that's like a $200 million movie.
Okay, I was going to question the budget because it sounds high to me, but
it's low budget for, I guess, a Hollywood horror film. But this is a film by the guy Jason Blum or Blum. I'm not sure how you say it. He produces these horror films and fast tracks them out. Right, this is his whole thing, and he's very well known for not spending a lot of money but making a lot of money. Now, 18 million isn't a small budget. Like an indie movie is probably made for $1 million or $2 million or less. But for a Hollywood film, this is a small budget.
Okay. I was just going to say almost a whole movie happens in one place.
Yeah, no, there's not. It's filmed in one area, and it's a period piece, so that probably costs money because it was filmed in. Well, it takes place in 1978. So
was it 78 or 79?
78.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, the idea of this movie, and we're not going to talk about the box office or any of that stuff because it's still out there. But I will say this: it was made for $16 or $18 million, and I believe as I looked it up, it's already made 66 in America and like 104 worldwide or something like that. So it's a hit. It's gonna, if you can make a sequel to something like this, which you can, any horror movie you can make a sequel to, they probably will. How would you describe, what is this movie about? Like, if you wanted to give it, as we've said before, a bumper sticker, what is like the very simple plot of this movie?
I feel like this is Manster's role usually, so I'm going to try really hard to do him proud. It's essentially about young boys being taken by a kidnapper, and they don't know who's taken them. They don't know where the kids are going, if they're alive. And that's the general gist of the movie. Yes,
it's the grabber is operating out of Denver, Colorado, a suburb of Denver, and a bunch of kids are going missing, and it revolves around these characters and how it's affecting everybody's lives. And we're following two kids in particular, Finney and his sister Gwen. And, Finney's going to get taken before the movie's over because that's what this movie's doing. But that's it. So this being the kind of thing where we're just kind of like, we're not going through the whole movie. We're just doing kind of a shorter episode and talking, mostly what we liked, disliked, and rating this movie. Why don't we get into our likes and dislikes of this thing?
Sounds good.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
All right, Lynn, give me your first like of the Black Phone.
I really like the relationship between Finney and Gwen.
Gwen.
Yeah, Gwen. Gwendolyn, I think, is her name. So everybody calls her something a little bit different. But they're obviously really close and loyal to each other, and you find out that their mother had passed, and the father's a drunk, and he beats the kids sometimes. So they've grown to be very dependent and supportive of each other.
Yeah, I like the fact that in so many movies and in real life, so many brothers and sisters are played as antagonistic, and they're played as best friends.
Yeah, it's really endearing.
Yeah, I did like that. And I also want to say I like both of the actors a lot.
Yes, me too.
I read a couple of reviews that said some of the acting was wooden in this, and I don't agree with that at all. I think, you know me, I don't like kid actors, but these kid actors in this movie are all just beyond that age where they're trying to be precocious and cute. They're probably 12, 13, 11, and I thought they were great. Gwynnie delivers maybe one of the best lines in the whole movie when she says, "Jesus, what the fuck?" When she's praying to Jesus. So the idea behind her character is she's got these, this is Joe Hill. This is Stephen King's son, so the apple can't fall too far from the tree. And despite the fact that this is a kidnapping movie, there's got to be that kind of supernatural element to it. And there's two kind of out there supernatural elements in this movie. What are the two elements, Lynn?
The other kids that were taken speak to Finney over the phone.
Yeah, there's a phone in the basement that he's being kept in, the black phone.
Yes, and
of
it
the
is
title.
Literally a black phone on the wall.
Right.
And I don't know what the other...
Her dreams.
Oh, right, yeah.
So
she has the ability to find details in the kids that were taken. Like, she has a dream that the grabber uses black balloons. She shares that with one of the victim's sisters. The detectives come in to ask her about it. And then I'm just going to jump into dislike since we're talking about this. The detectives are asking her for more information about the black balloons. Gwen's father gets pissed because he doesn't want her utilizing those powers. And she gets an epic beatdown from her father, and it is a hard watch.
It's a hard watch, but is it a dislike? It's
only a dislike because it made me feel emotions, like I wanted to kick his ass, and that's also probably a like because it's actually I'm invested in that character enough to be pissed that her father's doing that.
Did you? Let me ask you a question because it might sound weird because one of the first two times we meet the father, it's very apparent that he's an alcoholic, and the kids, I don't want to say they're in terror of him, but like the first scene is he's hungover and they're trying not to make noise.
Right.
And the second scene is a scene where he brutally beats her with a belt, and she cries. Like when she cries, I felt like it was real.
Yeah, same.
But let me ask you, did you, as the story went along and you learn that the father, his wife, obviously maybe had the same precognitive powers that the daughter had, and she killed herself. Did you feel sympathy for him at all? Because I actually felt sympathy for him as the movie went along, and I thought that was a well-written character, is where he wasn't just, like if you think about like It, right? The redheaded girl's father in that, who's molesting her, he's just a fucking horrible dude. But in this, it seems like they're trying to give him some past and some history that is making him the way he is. And I'm not saying that's an excuse for doing what he did, but I felt like they at least tried to fill it out.
I think that they filled out the character well. Do I like him? Not at all.
No.
I felt he was a weak person to behave the way he did. But yes, as for the movie, it filled out his character and gave him a backstory.
They felt like they tried to give him stuff to do in terms of like, he didn't just dismiss her dreams. Like when she tells him, believe me, he takes her on the road to try to find the house. At the end, when they're found, he's like, please forgive me. I hope, I kind of hope that this is like the opening of something for that character, because in so many movies, they're written poorly and they're just abusive, shitty dads. And this guy is probably an abusive, shitty dad who is just super fucking overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Like losing his loved one to suicide. And I don't know. It might sound silly. I'm not trying to defend him, but I'm glad that they didn't just make him a shitbag. You see reasons behind it, and hopefully, he can get past that.
Yeah, I think we differ here. I feel badly that happened, but he's affecting 2 other people that are counting on him. So he's a weak person.
Yeah. In
not handling the responsibility he has well.
All right, 1 point for you. You win this argument this time. Write it down. Doesn't happen often. All right, so one of my likes is amount of setup they put in before the grabber gets Finney. There's easily 25 minutes of the movie where, in a lot of movies, he would be the first kid taken. You would hear about the other kids in the news reports or whatever, and then he's gone within 5 minutes. They take their time to set up their relationship, to set up his friendships with certain kids that are going to like affect him, later on. Even though it's not a friendship, he has a run-in with a kid he plays baseball with that gets taken. There's the local like kind of tough guy kid that has saved his ass before and given him advice, who ends up getting taken. So I like the fact that we get, a good amount of setup, and we also get to see this community that's like living under the fucking pressure of these kids being taken all the time. Like everybody seems on edge. These kids seem nervous. The parents seem nervous. I like that.
Did you notice how when they're walking to school and away from school, they're actually walking between 2 fences? Almost like they're trying to corral the kids to keep them safer.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not the reason, but yeah, I kind of got what you said. Yeah, it seemed like they were, at the time it was all, walk to school with your brother and sister and all that stuff, and I think it was just kind of that, like a community of kids sticking together.
Yeah, I didn't have that experience, and when I walked to school to be corralled by fences on either side, so I didn't know if that was significant for the movie.
I don't think so, but I don't know. Maybe it was a touch that I didn't know about. What else do you have for a like?
Gwen, she is a fantastic character. She's a strong female character. She's loyal. She's tough as nails. She hits a kid who's beating her brother up.
I'm sorry, that kid died. That kind of head wound, you don't survive.
Yeah, so she delivered a lot of really good blows. She received some, and she still went to school that day. I really thought she was a great character. She had a potty mouth, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
I really liked her, and we already talked about how her father beat her, and she cried when he was doing it, but she still stood her ground. She threatened to drop his vodka bottle on the ground, and he's like, no, you're not going to do it, so I'll hit you. And she did it anyway. Right.
Yeah, no, she's really good. Both kids really good in this. Another like I have in this one is Ethan Hawke is really good in this. He's playing kind of against type. He's played, I'm sure, I'd have to really kind of think about it. I'm sure he's played a bad guy or a villain before, but he plays a real shitbag in this movie. And to go along with that, like, they a couple things they do in this movie, two things, and this is considered a horror movie. I don't know if I'd consider it a horror movie more than I consider it like maybe a thriller, is kind of some of the stuff they did with the villain in this, the grabber, is right off the bat, we get no explanation whatsoever, like at all, as to his background or anything. I like that. I don't like that we found out early on. I think they kind of pointed to like maybe they were going to say something because he mentions the phone never worked when he was a kid either. And I'm like, oh, was he like tortured by his dad or something? They never got into that. And that was fine. And also, now I'm not saying that they can't come back and do a sequel, which, like I said before, they very well may. But at the end of the film, and we've been spoiling stuff anyway, so this is even a bigger spoiler, is Finney kills the fuck out of him, and he does not come back in a jump scare scene. And I was so fucking psyched for that. So Finney breaks his neck, and he dies, and the cops get into the house and save the day. And then there's one final scene where they show him back at school, and now he's kind of like got confidence, and he's different than he was in the beginning. And I was waiting for him to walk into the classroom and for the teacher to be the grabber, and they did not do that, and I was very relieved. And I want to point out, just aesthetically, especially because Ethan Hawke is a good-looking guy, they did a great job of almost never showing his face. They show his face once fully in the whole movie, basically, in the first scene where he grabs Finney. And it seemed like he had like some kind of like gray face paint on or something. Did you notice that? I
think he was supposed to look like a mime type magician.
Okay.
He also says, "You want to see me do a magic trick?"
Okay, I knew he had like the getup. I just wasn't sure if that was supposed to be some kind of makeup.
I think it was, yeah.
Because he looked gray.
He did.
So you never really get to see him. And then the other part is, and I didn't realize this till I read it this morning researching the movie, is he wears this like modular mask throughout the whole movie that kind of comes apart at the nose line and then at the jaw line, and he could change the jaws out. It's got horns and crazy eyes, and there's kind of like a smiling face, and there's like this weird long face, and that was actually designed by Tom Savini, who is one of the world's most renowned visual effects and horror, specifically horror effects artists. So there was nothing else, I think, for him to do in the movie. I don't think he did any of the gore. I could be wrong about that. But he designed that mask, so that was pretty cool. All right, do you have another like?
The mask was one of my likes.
Yeah.
And the end of the story where he stays dead is one of my likes, too. I thought for sure there was going to be a twist where the grabber ends up killing his brother, too. And I thought for sure there was going to be some sort of setup where Finney still dies. The police assume that the grabber was actually his brother.
Right.
And that the grabber was going to be able to get away and continue.
Were you relieved that Finney lives through this? I mean, I was, because horror movies can go one of two ways, where either they get away, and then maybe something dumb happens, like a jump scare at the end that's just a dream. But so many of them nowadays have that bummer ending where the person doesn't get away. And one of the things I liked about this movie was I honestly didn't know if Finney was going to get away at the end or not.
Yeah, I'm glad that he got away. Like I said, I was really invested in both his character and his sister's character from the beginning.
Right.
So that was a huge relief.
All right. Well, any other likes in particular?
So most of the movie takes place in the basement of the grabber's house. And there are all these clues. He gets phone calls from the other boys who were killed, and they give him clues on how to escape and what to do and what not to do to try to beat the grabber. And it's almost reminiscent of an escape room, but in this case, it's really scary because it's your life.
Right.
There's codes and there's numbers and there's different ways to try to escape that they share with him. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. Yeah, he has to take all of their advice, and none of them lived. But
Right.
He has to piece together all of their advice and, go from that. One of my other likes about this movie, mentioned earlier, it's a period movie, takes place in 1978, which at this point is almost 45 years ago, is the fact that it felt like so many movies that take place like in times that either I lived in or am familiar with very much so, don't always feel like they got the period right. This movie felt like it was 1978 to me without trying to say it's 1978. Like, a lot of movies do that, you know what I mean? Where they try to go a little too heavy and hard into that period. This one didn't. This one also had a good soundtrack. Fox on the Run. There's a couple songs in here that exemplify that. It actually, I think it had like 2 or 3 songs that are also in Dazed Confused, which I don't know if that's coincidental or whatnot, but it felt very much like of the time.
It did, and it felt like they easily portrayed that. And then I wasn't sure if that was because I was born in 78, so I recognize, the wood paneling on a station wagon and just different things, or if it was just really well done. It was probably a combination of both of those things.
Yeah. All right, what did you dislike about this movie?
One of my dislikes is actually your like, and it's that we don't know much about the grabber. We know he uses black balloons. We know he drives a black van and it says abracadabra on the side. He dresses like a weirdo mime when he grabs Finney and he asks if he wants to see a trick. We know that he was in the basement and that the phone didn't work when he was in the basement. We know he has a brother, but we really don't know anything else about him. And I think, even though it's a dislike because I was so curious about his character and what made him who he was, I think the mysteriousness of it is part of the reason it's so frightening.
Yeah, what's the reasoning behind him wanting to play these fucking naughty boy games? Like, what? Like, but that's the thing is, there are millions of people out there like this. Probably most of them don't enact on these, like, fucking desires, but some of them do. That's what I thought was scary about it, was that we didn't find out he was an abused kid. He might have been. He might have been abducted as a kid, and now it's like, we don't find that out.
Right.
I like that.
Right, yeah. And he uses a voice when he talks to Finney in the beginning, and it's very, like, a very nice guy, maybe a little bit shy, and then if Finney asked the question, he changed his voice to be gruff and angrier, and that was very effective, too.
Yeah. Yeah, Ethan Hawke's really good in this. And he's an actor I always like, but he's not always in stuff that I always dig. Like, I don't always seek his stuff out. But he was very good in this. All right, if I have to go with a dislike, the brother storyline, even though I like James Ransone, so the idea is that at one point the cops go to a house and they meet this character, Max, played by James Ransone, and he's obsessed with this case. Like, totally obsessed with this case. He's talking about, like, telling the cops he has a theory and he must live in this, like, fairly close to this neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. And then we figure out that he's actually in the house with the kid. He doesn't know it, right? And I'm not saying stuff like that hasn't happened in the real world, but I almost wish we had more scenes with him investigating this and coming closer to figuring it out, or even scenes between the two brothers where you see him, where you get to see a side of the grabber, like maybe being a normal-ish guy and like lying to his brother, but we didn't get any of that stuff. So I don't know if I disliked that so much, but I just wasn't crazy about the fact that, like, they introduced this idea and then it's literally just a back burner.
It seems like a lot of the grabber's story, all the background and why everything, his brother's snorting rails in the living room and he's coming across like a crazy person, but we don't dive into any of that. And like I said, it's a dislike because I'm curious, but at the same time, it plays a huge part on the mystery of the scariness of what the grabber is going to do.
Right.
And the boys who call on the phone to Finney to give him warnings or advice, that plays, it kind of builds up the tension because you're like, what is this guy going to do? And you really have no idea because you don't know his background.
Right.
You don't know what he did to the other boys. You know it was not good. But a lot of it is just a mystery.
What else do you dislike about this? Anything else?
I can't think of anything else I disliked. I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Okay. I will say, if I have to go with a maybe just like a choice dislike, I would have preferred if they kept all of the black phone stuff audio only. I didn't really care for, like, So they do this thing where the kids call and he talks to them, and then they start to show up in the room, like the ghost form of them, and they mimic the audio, and he doesn't see them at first, but then he starts to kind of see them a little bit. I was fine if they didn't do that. It leads to a couple of scares. Like the first time, like we both jumped when, he turns and the kid's standing right next to him. And then there's that other one where I think he wakes up on the bed and that kid's floating in the room, spinning around with his throat cut.
Well, he wakes up to the dripping noises and it's actually blood dripping off the kid hanging from the ceiling.
Right. I like those, but not enough for the rest of the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like it might have been a little bit scarier if it just remained audio only.
Do you feel like maybe Finney had the same, what's the word that I'm looking for, special abilities as his mother and as his sister?
No.
And that it built? Because the energy was coming through the phone, and then as he's embracing the energy of audio only, he starts seeing the boys and he's connecting with them because he actually knows some of them personally or knew them personally, and then he's heard of the others.
I would think, in my opinion, it's the other side. It's not him. It's as the ghosts are talking to him and he's starting to accept their advice, they're starting to come through further. That's how, like, I don't think it's him pulling him through. I think that, like, his acceptance of what he's talking to is making their spirits a little bit stronger. But, I mean, it works either way.
Right.
It works either way. All right. We talked about it enough, our likes and dislikes. I don't really have any other dislikes. All right. So let's rate this thing.
Have you gentlemen seen your midterm grades yet?
Oh, they're not posted yet, sir.
I've seen them.
All right. You know the rule, Lynn. 0 to 5. 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever, and quarter and half scale optional. I'm gonna let you go first. What do you give this? Still out in theaters, by the way. The Black Phone, if you want to go check it out in theaters, and also rentable. I think it was $20, $20.
I'm going with 4.25.
4.25. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You really enjoyed this.
I really did, and I keep thinking about it and just different things that happened.
All right. I'm gonna mirror you almost, not quite, and give it a super solid 4. I really dug this movie a lot. I actually. So many people out there right now are getting out to see Maverick, the Top Gun movie, and, Thor, Love and Thunder. And those are things that I want to check out. But the last few weeks, I've really wanted to see The Black Phone and just, didn't have any time for it. And then, like, literally, I think Wednesday of this week, I saw an ad on Facebook saying it was coming to rent on Friday. And I was like, fuck, I can't wait. Now I can rent it. So I was looking forward to it. It did not disappoint. Ethan Hawke is really creepy in this. It's, again, is it a horror movie? Is it a thriller? The subject is certainly horrific. I mean, this is this kid's being abducted and murdered. They don't live. The kids do not live. And they make it clear in the movie that these are ghosts, and they find the bodies at the end. So it doesn't necessarily end on a super happy note, but Finney lives, and and lives to see another day. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. All right, cool. 4 and a 4.25.
Yeah.
All right.
Go see it, people.
Go see it. I'll be picking this up on Blu-ray. I did really, really enjoy this movie, and I think it has a repeat watch value.
Definitely.
All right, we'll be checking this out again. All right, Lynn, thanks for helping me out with this episode.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and until next time, which will be the 250th episode, say it.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!